Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Fitness Friday Positive with Rachelle. Folks, it's always great to be with you again. Last time I kicked off this marketing series by highlighting the value of competition. This whole aspect of competition is something that cannot be underestimated. But folks, you always like to start out with something sometimes relevant to the fitness industry, sometimes not. But anyway, I want to open up this episode by highlighting a email that I received. As I mentioned to you, actually I talked about it because about 3 weeks ago during the Fitness Friday episode, I received a couple of surveys during the month of May from Precor. Precor, my beloved equipment manufacturer of the EFX cross-training elliptical. And folks, I received a thank you email on June 12th from Will Ostrander, who's a senior product manager. And so I saw the title of the email, "Thank you for taking our research survey." And I do a ton of surveys and provide a ton of feedback, so I didn't know exactly what it was for. But anyway, I opened it up and it says, "Dear Rachelle, I would like to extend a personal thank you for participating in our recent research survey. Your feedback is a critical element of our product development process. I appreciate your willingness to offer your opinion. Based on your feedback, we might contact you for future research questions. Please accept a small token of our appreciation with this coffee card." And there's a $5 Starbucks gift card. Sincerely, Will Ostrander. Now, for those of you who don't know me, those of you who certainly do know, I don't drink coffee. But what I've discovered from time to time, I get these Starbucks gift cards from different places. Sometimes we're doing surveys like this, but I actually go there, don't get any coffee obviously, but they have some of the best banana nut bread loaves I found. Absolutely love them. Yes, yes, yes. But anyway, let me quickly read my response to him a few hours later. "Hello, Will. Thanks for the thoughtful gesture. No problem. I am happy to help. On a personal note, I am the world's #1 fan of Precor EFX. The AMT is great too, but the EFX has had the most prominent role during my own 25-year fitness journey. Keep up the great work with Precor. I look forward to future surveys. Cheers and rock on," and I have a thumbs up. And so I love Precor. My EFX machine is just the best. It's certainly missed my machine, but certainly I'm just so happy to be able to provide feedback to Precor. It's just a very unique experience when a machine you absolutely love and the company reaches out to you to request feedback. And then also I certainly appreciated the thoughtful gesture on their part, but I had to start out with that, folks. But what I'm going to do for the next series of episodes, actually this entire marketing series, all right, I'm going to have an umbrella frame for it being, now that I've talked about, got a competition episode last week, the 4 P's of marketing. The 4 P's of marketing, basic marketing concept, which means or stands for product, price, place, or placement in some cases you'll see, and promotion. All right, so I'm going to talk about those in the next series of episodes, but I'm going to start off with the product aspect of the piece. And so for purposes of Fitness Friday, we think about it's a little bit tougher, obviously in the fitness industry, but when you think about product, okay, so if someone works for a consumer packaged goods company, so they may be talking about a box of Crest toothpaste. All right, so that would be the product. It's a lot more simple in cases like those, obviously. But for purposes of the fitness industry, when I talk about product, I want to break it down into 2 separate episodes. So when I think of, and what I talk about when I'm evaluating a fitness industry or writing reviews, there's always 2 components to that. When I'm thinking about the fitness product, whether I'm dealing with a fitness chain or whatever, a private entity, whatever the case may be, the people component of the product and the facility or the facilities itself. All right, so people in the facility equal product in this case. Just for the purpose of these episodes, I'm going to try to break this down a little bit, but in the interest of time, I want to break these 2 down, but talk about the people aspect of your product, what you're offering, and this people aspect is so important. And this is obviously not an HR episode. I'm going to do a series of those later this year, but the people component, particularly as it relates to the marketing, is so important. Because if you go, obviously, yeah, members being happy and members writing reviews and all of that, but from an employee standpoint, that is huge. That is absolutely huge. And what I want to talk about, particularly, yes, I spent a lot of time talking about member reviews, member surveys, member feedback, all of that. But I want to challenge you as I about to give an example here for the University of Michigan health system, is to think about your people and how having satisfied employees, engaged employees, happy employees, what a difference that makes, obviously, on your marketing. Because these folks can be some of your biggest advocates, not only, yes, when members and prospective members see that type of feedback, but also for potential future employees. Just so important. And so when I think about, just to give you an example and how important this people aspect piece is to the product, the overall product, I highlighted last time that yes, for those of you who don't know, and I know there's always new people watching, I'm actually having an absolute ball, absolute blast as a healthy volunteer participant for the University of Michigan health system, or precision medicine. There's different names that they use for it, but having an absolute blast. But I talked last time and actually read the feedback that I provided. I nominated 2 employees for the Making a Difference Award. And so I did both of those submissions online for those 2 folks. And in my most recent, actually, I was involved in 4 studies. 2 are completed, 2 are ongoing. And actually going to be doing 2 new studies, not just 1, but 2 additional studies between about in the next 30 to 45 days. Those will be in the Division of Automotive Research. So can't wait to do those, and I'll certainly share some feedback. But yes, I'm having a wonderful experience interacting with a number of employees, across these clinical trials. All right, but as I told you last time, in any situation, we're talking about people, whatever the case may be, groups, populations, subgroups, whatever, go back to this bell curve, and we talk about how most people in any situation are going to fall right here in the mean. It's going to be average, and that's wonderful, hey, whatever. But very few people, yes, and you have positive and negative outliers. All right, positive people are way out front. You're superstar employees, this and this and that. Everyone can't be a super positive outlier. The type of people that and particularly in this case where everyone is so strong, the competitive class is so strong amongst the employees that I've interacted with for these clinical trials, and those 2 that I nominated, extreme positive outliers. But see, everyone can't be an extreme positive outlier. And so that's kind of when you think about when I'm providing feedback, that's some of the things that I'm always looking at. What is the competitive class? Who am I comparing it to? Whatever this and that, but just strong people across the board. But nominated those 2, did the submission online, but I wanted to read a little bit of this brochure so you can hear, and I'm gonna tie this into a very powerful point here in a couple of minutes once I finish reading this, to talk about the power of recognition programs. Now, I just highlighted this and explained what I did, and you all know I'm very big on providing feedback. In the fitness industry, outside of the fitness industry, I do a lot of feedback, provide a lot of feedback. And so, and nearly all of those cases, it is actually informal feedback. Okay, I'm not submitting people for awards and formal recognition, because unfortunately, a lot of those programs do not exist. Just across organizations, corporations, whatever the case may be. There may be a survey on your receipt or something like that, or send us an email, whatever. I do a lot of that type of stuff. My stuff is what? Informal, because I care enough to provide that type of feedback. And yes, when you have formal programs, that can certainly lead to monetary recognition, promotions, all of that, raises, all of that. But I know my informal feedback has some of those same results. I've gotten feedback from my own feedback, where people are certainly recognized and helped by their organizations. But formal, I just want to make this strong point here, opening was right out of the gate. Feedback and formal employee recognition programs, or even they don't have to be this structured and this formal. I mean, obviously, it's University of Michigan, whatever, yada. You think, well, Rachelle, I only own 2 gyms. What type of program can you create based on where you are in terms of, again, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, your SWOT analysis? Okay, and in terms of your employee, just what is your employee landscape like? What is your retention rate like? Do you have a ton of turnover? Just evaluate some of those factors and determine, but I assure you, part of the reason why the fitness industry, particularly on the commercial side, has a tendency to hemorrhage employees is because a lot of people don't feel recognized, valued, and appreciated. Yes, you see this. I've seen this just across the industry, across chains and gyms, certainly on reviews, On Indeed.com, Glassdoor.com, just across the board, just a lot of disgruntled, unhappy, disengaged employees. Not only obviously in the fitness industry, but across industries. And so, and programs like this, or even more simplified type of programs, again, do what you can do. I don't want you to try to emulate the University of Michigan when they've got a very large HR staff, that's able to pull these types of things off. All right, and so you got to deal with. You may be the person that's responsible for the program, and you're the owner. All right, you don't have a massive staff of people that's going to be able to make sure everything is just covered from start to finish. All of that. Do what you can do. Do your best. Don't always try to emulate someone else's best. Do your best. And so I wanted to read this quickly, just so you get an idea, just to get you thinking about what it is they're looking for, what is the purpose of this program, and the impact that programs like this at the University of Michigan Health System has, and I'll share that with you here shortly. Employees across Michigan Medicine make a difference to patients, families, and colleagues through their hard work and dedication every day, and that's inspiring. The Making a Difference Employee Recognition Program allows you the opportunity to acknowledge inspiring employees and their contributions to the organization. Recognizing employees helps them to become more motivated, drives better teamwork, and gives each individual a sense that they are an integral part of achieving institutional goals. Then it says, who inspires you? Fill out the attached nomination form, providing as much information as possible. Be sure that you print clearly. You can also fill out an online nomination form and it has the URL. Then it says, if you have any other questions regarding the Make a Difference Employee Recognition Program, call Michigan Medicine Human Resources. It has a number, or email. All right. And at the bottom, thank you for taking the time to recognize Michigan Medicine team members. And so on this, it says, I'm inspired. Then it has my name, phone. I am a patient, family member, employee, visitor. Recipient information, employee first and last name, department, job title, work location, shift, date of rate service, supervisor's name, and then it has you make a difference because, you provide your commentary. So I didn't know their supervisor's name, so I just left that blank, but I filled in all the rest and submitted those online. All right, and so there's something I want to pull this together for you. You talk about the power of valuing your people and having formal recognition programs in place. I want to share on June 5th, Forbes.com actually published America's Best Employers by State. So edited by Vicki Vallet, and this was actually an editor's pick. So this has certainly made the rounds of getting passed around a lot. And so it actually has a list for 2019 America's Best Employers by State. Yes, they have the overall list, but they also break it down. You can search by list, by state. The number one ranked employer in the state of Michigan, can you guess? University of Michigan Health System with 26,000 employees. Number one. And I saw that and it made me smile, but it did not surprise me. It did not surprise me. When you've got mechanisms in place and number and employees, and I've seen, some of them have their certificates, Making a Difference Award certificates hanging in their offices and that type of stuff. Just one of the reasons why they are the state's top employer, according to Forbes magazine. And so, again, your goal may not be, you may not have 26,000 employees, which is really, when you think about it, it's a really tough feat. When you have that many employees, and you're still getting recognized, because it's just so much can go wrong, and just, a lot of employee problems and all of this and that, but number one ranked employer for the state. So I just want to challenge you, based on where you are, the realities of what you are able to do in terms of employee recognition, particularly at the club level. Yeah, you'll see some national chains saying like nominate somebody for such and such award, whatever, this and that. But there's obviously some assumptions there that all your members are following you on Facebook or other social media channels, whatever the case may be. But I like to see, and it's very rarely the case, in club recognition for employees. And I just, you think from a motivation standpoint, I'm always talking about motivation. You talk about a motivation standpoint. Having employees know that members, not just the manager, because that's one thing that the favoritism word is thrown around a lot, particularly in the fitness industry. Management favoring certain employees and disfavoring other employees. Or if you think from a motivation standpoint, if you've got a group of employees, I don't know what, just any random facility, that know that members have the ability to nominate them for awards, recognition. It could be something, folks, as simple as, somebody wins or somebody gets recognized. And some people have the employee of the month program, but then that's a situation where if it's the same person winning, then there's favoritism, complaints and all of that. But it could be something as simple, folks, as a certificate. If your budget's real tight, or even, just a $5 iTunes cards or whatever the case may be. A lot of people like Starbucks, so a Starbucks gift card, whatever. It doesn't have to be big. You don't have to get someone a Rolex watch. It could be something simple. But in many cases, it's just the recognition and the validation from management, from leadership to an employee stating, hey, we recognize you, and this member, this person is recognized you and pointed you out. And we want to acknowledge the great work that you're doing, because it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day running of a facility or facilities, and you lose sight of the impact that your folks are having on a day-to-day basis. And so I challenge you to really think about, from just a recognition standpoint, what that can do. You talk about upping. Generally speaking, not always. You're always going to have outliers. But generally speaking, if people know that there's some type of award mechanism in place, and in a way it can be competitive, meaning that members are going to be deciding who to recognize and whatever this and that. Many cases, employees will step up their game. Is what I'm saying. Will step up their game because they want to have a fair shot. They get recognized. They're getting recognized, and so that's winning half the leadership and management battle is elevating employees' motivation, right? So you're not having to tell them to do stuff constantly and staying on them and this and that, all right? They're able to elevate their games and hold themselves accountable for providing a better level of service to members and all of that, serving as positive representations of where they are. And so had to highlight that, folks. But want to focus on, think about this people aspect. This people aspect of the product equation, the 4 P's of marketing. So, gotta highlight it again. You guys are gonna be like, how many times is she gonna talk about Jim Collins' Good to Great book? And the answer is, I'm never stopping. But for those who haven't read it, it was truly just a landmark book, when it came out, and is still extremely popular. It's still certainly highly regarded and often cited. But when you think about good to great, and I always like to pull out this one segment because it's very quick and it provides a good visual that people are able to just latch onto real quick, particularly those in leadership roles. So don't want to take anything for granted, so I always like to kind of go through it every time. So we have the fitness leader, whether it's the owner, the general manager, whatever the case may be. And so the executive director of the YMCA, whatever. So when you think about, and then let me back up really quickly here. We talk about good to great. They had a research team that evaluated a lot of companies, and they assessed what these companies did, what traits, what behaviors, what activities, all of that enabled some of these companies to go from good to great. Because again, going back to the bell curve, everyone can't be great. Everyone can't be positive outliers. Most people are where? Right here in the middle. Just average, right here in the mean section. All right, so going from good to great, what behaviors? What were these companies doing? What happened? Whatever this and that. Okay, so one strong point in the book that I love to point out is, okay, so picture your vision for 2019, and you want to decide, I don't know, by the end of 2020, 2021, I'm taking my facility, or my facilities are going to go from being good, what I think they're good, to great, all right? Or from average to exceptional, whatever the case may be, however you may decide to frame it. So, this is your vision, greatness, excellence, whatever the case, the final destination. So, you as the leader or leadership team, driving the bus. Not only one of you can drive now. So, whoever the head honcho is, the big dog, you're driving the bus. All right, so it's 3 things that are very important. You think about getting from where you are to where you want to be. Number 1. You want to have the right people on the bus. The right people on the bus. And I think part of this challenge, and particularly with the fitness industry on the commercial side, it's most definitely, and in many cases, there is a hemorrhaging and a high turnover of employees in the industry on the commercial side. It is very, 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 very high. And I think part of that is because you just don't have the right people on the bus. I mean, there's just there's just no other way to describe it. The right people aren't on the bus. And I alluded to this in a number of episodes over the years, is that you have a situation where people need a job, they want a paycheck, they're really not interested in your vision and what you're trying to do or their own fitness or anyone else's fitness. They're just trying to get paid. You know, and is it any surprise when these folks are leaving in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year? All right, so having the right people on the bus, are they buying into your vision, particularly your leadership vision? Are they buying into your goals of going from average or from good to great, or good to exceptional? However you define that. Are people buying into it? Are they negative? Are they complaining all the time? Do they whatever? All right, you just want to have the right people on the bus, and there's ways certainly from a recruiting standpoint, from a hiring standpoint, you can filter. If you're diligent enough, you can filter those people out to find just where they are. Where are you? Is this going to be a good fit? But I think many times there's just so many openings and vacancies. People are very quick to fill them, to get another body in. We get short staff. We need somebody real quick. And there's perhaps sometimes maybe not enough due diligence on the front end, and then on the back end, that person is leaving in 6 months. All right, so number one, have the right people on the bus. Number two, have the right people in the right seats. And this can be a tough one because, this person may have, and this is always kind of some of the criticism you'll often hear with interviews, and how some people can just be superstar interviewers and then they get hired and they're an absolute disaster when they actually, enter the workforce of a particular organization or entity. So you want to have the right people in the right seats. Again, there's different ways that, many corporations, when I was in sales, years ago when I first started out in medical sales, and I remember we had to do personality assessments. Because, why is that? Yeah, they wanted to look for certain personality traits that would enable a person to be successful in sales, like being self-motivated, like having a resiliency towards, particularly, this is a big one, rejection. Rejection, because if you have problems with rejection, not only in sales but in life, it's going to be a challenge. But don't want to get into that. But so they were trying to filter people out. Okay, if you're terrified of rejection and as a result, particularly in a sales situation, you're going to have a very tough time asking someone for business, asking someone to close the deal, asking someone if they're ready to take the next step. All right, now what I actually argue too, just as a quick digression and aside, on the fitness industry, and actually no, this isn't a quick digression, this just kind of popped into my mind, but if you've got people in a sales role, if there's in the absence of account manager or salespeople, and you've got people at the front desk perhaps that are responsible for giving tours and all of that, signing people up, and they've got big fears of rejection, and you're wondering why your membership levels have been flat for the last year, 2 years, 5 years. All right, that's something that needs to be drawn out during an interview. That's something you can ask. There's different ways you can frame it during a behavioral-based interview. You just set up a situation during a behavioral-based interview, asking, or how they would deal with a certain situation involving rejection, a major rejection. Because that's exactly, and I've been on enough tours of facilities to know, and I can tell that because someone is in that role that has a fear of rejection, the interaction will just end with something like, "Okay, thank you for coming in today." Whereas the person that's more assertive will say something like, "Well, did you have any other questions? Are you ready to sign up today? Or do you need a day or so to think about it? Is it okay if I follow up with you?" They're just going to have a hard time taking that step. But that's an example of having the right person in the right seat and definitely having an impact on your revenues and profitability. Having the wrong people responsible for member signups is huge, as well as member retention. Okay, if you've got someone, again, going back to having the right people on the bus, somebody that does not buy into your vision, that doesn't give a rat's behind about you or your business, and they're responsible for member cancellations, and Johnny Johnson comes in and says, "I want to cancel my membership." Okay. And there's no question of, was there a problem? Is there anything we could do differently? Do you have a suggestion? Can we talk about this? Not badgering the person refusing to cancel, but having a conversation. But if someone lacks rejection and isn't assertive, that person's member after member is just going to roll out of the door, and you're going to wonder why. Because there's not the confidence to be able to challenge that. Is all I'm saying. So having the right people in the right seats This is going to turn into a rejection episode, but it's so important. Okay, number 3, getting the wrong people off the bus. Getting the wrong people off the bus. People that aren't buying into your vision, people that are negative, complaining, problematic, whatever this and that. And this getting the wrong people off the bus can be a very big challenge. And that's why I always caution you and certainly advise you to connect with, seek advice and counsel from a seasoned human resources professional. And you may argue, I don't have an HR person on staff, and that's actually true. You see a lot of that, particularly on smaller type of facilities or 1 or 2 off gyms, whatever the case may be. You can connect. I mean, there's HR consultants. Google, reach out to your local chapter of SHRM, Society for Human Resources Management. Connect with HR folks. Have this conversation, seek counsel. That way you're not facing lawsuits and your wrongful termination. You have all these nightmarish type of scenarios going on in your facility or facilities, and there's no one to direct you and to help you protect yourself in these situations involving people and people management. And so that's all I want to say about that, but you definitely do not want to have the wrong people on the bus. And certainly something that's just been true, you could, from an HR standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, I mean, there's study after study and example after example, where one of the biggest challenges that leaders have, just overall, is this aspect right here. Getting rid of people that are not bringing value, that are not contributing, that just do not need to be there any longer, with an organization. And this is a very tough thing, and I think that's just we as human nature have a tough time with that. Letting people go and getting people off the bus. And so this is something that is a very big problem, but people tend to be stuck as a result with underperformers on their team. That is sagging down revenues, decreasing profitability, but also creating negative member experiences, for which from a marketing standpoint, this is a marketing series, creating negative word of mouth, as well as negative online reviews and member cancellations. All right, because people have a negative experience, people tell these days. It's all about social media and getting the word out. And so you want to have those 3 in order to go from being good to great, as Jim Collins and that research team alluded to. And I'm actually going to close out this entire marketing series with an episode on the value of diversity and inclusion. But when you think about hiring, and I just wanted to drop a nugget here, you think about hiring, particularly in the fitness industry, which definitely tends to skew much younger than a lot of other industries. And one thing, and when I see it, it makes me smile, and that is when I see non-traditional employees. And so this is just my own personal term. How people define non-traditional just varies. And so for me, when I see someone, at the front desk, and they're over 30, I think like, wow, this is non-traditional employee. But again, this is just my own mechanism of determining, what I consider to be non-traditional, in the fitness industry. No hard and fast rule, but it's an industry that tends to skew pretty young. To see folks that are slightly older, in their 40s and 50s, sometimes even 60s. It's such a wonderful thing to see. And when we're talking about hiring people, we're talking about an often overlooked segment of people, potential employees, being older employees. Again, me defining it, as in the fitness, somebody older than 30. Some people define it over 50. Some people define it over 40. It just varies. And so this whole concept of ageism, okay, we know about racism and sexism and all of that, discrimination, bias, all of that. But this ageism, this concept of ageism has become a hot topic, not only in HR, but just in other industries as well. And so I want to highlight a couple of examples here that talk about this whole notion of ageism and this and that, and how folks and employees are missing out on an opportunity to hire a very good group of people. But the first example came here from HR executive. And so this particular episode, or this particular edition, is from March 2017. And so I've been saving 2019, but I've been saving this because I knew there was going to be an HR-ish type episode here in the future, but wanted to highlight this. So it's under the HR news section, and the title of this is Breaking Down Age Bias. It's pretty lengthy. I'm just going to read a few paragraphs here in the interest of time. As employers use all sorts of tactics to train and retain employees, some savvy recruiters aren't turning to a perk, but rather a population. older workers. By 2022, workers ages 50 and older will comprise 35% of the workforce, and data from the Employee Benefit Research Institute indicate that 79% of all employees intend to work well into their retirement years. According to Trans-America Center for Retirement Studies' 18th Annual Retirement Survey, 74% of employers reported that their employees plan to work either full or part-time after they retire. Skipping, if employers don't make simple changes to recruiting practices, they'll run the risk of missing out on key talent, Weinstock says. Take, for example, the much sought after and soft skills that older workers bring to the workforce. Or, according to Weinstock, that older workers are much less likely to leave a company than Millennial or Generation X colleagues. Skipping a little bit, Barry Lott, Director of Program Operations for the Senior Community Service Employment Program, part of the National Council on Aging, says one challenge of recruiting older workers is plain and simple: ageism. Skipping a couple of paragraphs, hiring older workers can give companies an edge in the war for talent, Lott says, but also shines a light on diversity and inclusion. Most modern workplace D&I conversations, he adds, have left out mature workers. The millions of unfilled jobs we hear about could be filled with people who aren't even given an opportunity to compete for those jobs, he says. So this article is by Danielle Westerman King. Got another article here of an opinion piece that appeared in Ad Age magazine. Yes, back from my marketing days, advertising early years ago. So this was June 10th, 2019. And so this opinion piece was wonderful. Gonna skip through this as well, read a couple of quick snippets. As an industry, we can battle ageism. So Cindy Gallup says, advertising has the power to change perceptions. Here's how to do it. And she is the founder CEO of If We Ran the World. So it says, as a proud 59-year-old, I've been championing the power of age in the advertising industry for years. Skipping. And last paragraph, actively seek older candidates for open positions and be straightforward that salary trade-offs are balanced by opportunity and new experience. Many older candidates are open to taking a reduction in historical pay levels when balanced with opportunity and the chance to gain new experience, training, and to build up their resume. And so a couple of examples of a employee segment, and particularly in the fitness industry, that is being overlooked, non-traditional type of employees based on age. And so when I think about my own fitness experience, when I think about just different gyms that I've been to and all of this and that, and I think about how these non-traditional experiences employees in terms of their ages. I think about, again, some of these positive outliers that you hear me talking about, whether it be Sue at Powerhouse, the cleaning lady. She should be at probably like 20 years now with the Powerhouse organization is a cleaning lady in 2 or 3 of their gyms, but just did a fantastic job. She was the MVP of that facility. But non-traditional employees had all of that almost 20-year loyalty with that particular chain of franchises. And I think about, when I went to the grand opening of Anytime Fitness here in Novi in 2012, when the Michaels were opening up that location, and then they've since, sold it to Patrick and Brittany May, and they've got a trainer there. I cannot remember his name, but he's been there since the beginning. He's a long-time trainer anyway, but right there, doing a great job. A slightly older employee. Planet Fitness. When I think about just, again, these extreme positive outliers experience, and when I think about these in terms of age, these non-traditional employees that have really just done to serve as such positive reflections on their facilities, and they are non-traditional in terms of age. Like you can think about Doug in Northfield, May Conan in Novi, Leo and Shreveport Bossier City Market. And I think about Henry in West Bloomfield, Denise on Fort Road in Dearborn, Christy, she was on 7 Mile in Livonia. There's just so many. There's the overnight guy in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. When I was there last fall, he was too far away from me, but he was killing it on the floor. But just top of mind, positive examples of folks that were given a chance, that are doing bang up jobs for their facilities, simply put. And so when we think about from a marketing standpoint, and they are in that one of those articles was absolutely true. They're bringing different things, these certain soft skills and stuff to the table. That is so true. And they can also, and another added benefit is they can stabilize the environment. Miss Jeanette from the Bossier City Club, I forgot about her. But these non-traditional employees are bringing a whole another set of skills and just these soft skills, so true, to the equation. So as you're building your teams, as you're thinking about reducing attrition and turnover, and what can we do? Because having high turnover from a marketing standpoint, people notice that. You see that on review after review across the industry. High turnover, it just looks bad. Every time I come in, there's a different person, or we've been through 4 managers in the last year. You see these types of comments on the online, yes, Yelp and Google reviews, but also Indeed.com, Glassdoor.com. So negative marketing based on people, particularly employees. So if you can get some folks in that can stabilize that situation, it will make a world of difference. But I can just tell you personally, I've witnessed some superstar positive outlier employees that were, in terms of age, which I define as 30 and older. Everybody has their own different definition, but for fitness, I would say 30 and older, just doing a bang up job. So don't ever look any segment. Take advantage of any opportunity that you can find to hire the best people, regardless of age. And folks, in that vein, I want to wrap this episode up by closing this episode out with an example of this concept of potential ageism, okay, in hiring. But also, we think about going back to Jim Collins, we're going from good to great, how important it is, number 2, to have the right people in the right seats. And I want to highlight an article that appeared in Bleacher Report, and I've been saving this bad boy since April. It appeared April 16th by Adam Kramer. And the title of it is Inside the Return of Les Miles. So several Fitness Fridays ago, I highlighted Les Miles, yes, the former head coach of LSU. That was a Sports Illustrated article, where he had, a couple months after he'd accepted the head coaching position at the University of Kansas, they did an article. And so this was a longer article here in Bleacher Report. And so this whole concept of ageism, while people are, you're in your 60s, you should be done, you should be retired, whatever the case may be. But when we talk about when you have the right person in the right seat, when you have passion and you have purpose, it just makes all the difference in the world. So in the interest of time, not going to read this thing is long. So I'm going to pull out a few points here and close this episode out. It says, he's one of 5 active coaches to have won a national title. And he's starting over in one of CFB, or college football's, worst programs. So what is Miles doing at Kansas? Having a blast. So it says, Les Miles, the man who eats grass and stars in movies, is here as well, floating across the stage in a white Kansas pullover, which, truth be told, will take some getting used to. He isn't quite sure where he's supposed to stand or when or how to raise his arms, but Miles is feeling it. Standing to the left of Ross, he gyrates awkwardly and spectacularly as All I Do Is Win is bellowed to the crowd. Welcome to Kansas football in 2019, and welcome to the unlikeliest return of one of the now 5 active college football coaches to have won a national championship. The other 4 coaches are stashed away at title game regulars, Alabama's Nick Saban and Clemson's Dabo Swinney, or research-rich schools with some recent history of success, Texas A&M's Jimbo Fisher and North Carolina's Mack Brown. They are not posted up at a program that has won a grand total of 18 football games since 2010. They are also not lining up for a colossal rebuild at age 65. It's not like Miles didn't have other options. Networks would line up to lure his charismatic personality away from the sideline and into the studio. But here he is at what most would consider rock bottom, looking carefree and at home. After more than a decade at LSU and 2 long, restless seasons away from the sport, the Mad Hatter is back, unafraid of the long journey ahead. Let me skip here. He credits sleep for his youthful appearance, which is not something you'll often hear from a head football coach. Most wear their insomnia like a badge of honor, but Miles seems at peace, back in a position that regularly produces 18-hour workdays. I've got plenty of energy, and age is not part of it, he says. As we go forward, I want to win, and I'm gonna want to win in a grand scope. I guess what I'm saying is I like the challenge, I like where I'm headed, I like where I'm at. So folks, when your heart is in it, when you have a sense of purpose, University of Kansas has got the right person in the right seat. Because at age 65, you got naysayers, doubters, haters saying, oh, you should be done, so go retire, go sit down somewhere, this isn't worth your time, it's going to be too much effort. But when your heart is in it, when your heart is in it, when you have purpose and passion and a sense of direction and commitment, right, particularly in a leadership role, that is so important. So from a marketing standpoint, you know, his ability to recruit players and all of that, when they see his passion and his commitment moving forward, you know, boosting and fundraising and all of that, there's going to be some positive ramifications of that. But so that's what we need more of in the fitness industry. People that are committed, people that have a sense of purpose, people that have a sense of passion. And that will truly help to turn the tide in the industry in terms of turnover and attrition and all of that. But folks, so that is the people aspect. Yes, I spent a lot of times on a number of episodes focusing on member engagement, member surveys, member feedback, keeping members happy, customer service, all of that. But wanted to spend some time, while this is not a formal HR episode, but talking about some people topics, particularly employee topics, as they relate to marketing. Because happy employees will help to market the heck out of your facility or facilities. But disgruntled, negative, unhappy ones will just they will also share negative vibes, negative energy, negative feedback, negative commentary, all of that can sabotage your own efforts. So folks, that's it for now. Next time I'm going to move on to the facility piece. And we got people, facility equals product in this case of the 4 Ps. And so I can't wait. So stay tuned until then. Remember, I am positively passionate about your fitness and success. Make it a great day.